you very much, David. Systems-based thinking is critical to changing the world for the better. And that's kind of an approach that I tried to integrate into urban planning. I come at environmentalism and sustainability from an architectural perspective, and it's been interesting to survey the conference, as there are people coming at this from a macro perspective and a micro perspective, the philosopher and the board member from the local municipality. And maybe I come at this from somewhere in between. So what is compact urbanism? Today I'm going to be speaking about rethinking transportation from an urban planning perspective, and maybe some contemporary opportunities, and maybe a little bit more just some rethinking of potential ways that we can manage communities in better ways. So transportation is an issue. This is a chart showing that transportation was the #1 usage of energy in the United States in 2011. I believe it's been that way for quite some time, but this illustrates the point that we spend a lot of energy, a lot of our time, and a lot of our resources. It costs a lot of money to transport ourselves from point A to point B, and it's not getting any better. Urban sprawl and complex transportation infrastructure that's been created throughout the United States and many other places in the developed world is an exacerbated problem. With more cars, requires more infrastructure for transportation, requiring further urban sprawl, where homes become further and further away from the destinations which people are trying to reach, and it becomes kind of an exponential issue. This problem is not helped by the fact that the powers that be aren't interested in changing our current transportation methodologies. It serves them to keep the status quo for our transportation methodologies. Here's some examples of some innovations. I don't know when the last time you saw an algae powered car on the road was, but there really aren't that many. There isn't a whole lot of incentive for innovation in transportation. And in fact, I would submit that the powers that be are interested in subduing true innovation in transportation technologies. The problem isn't getting any better with the fact that developing countries are looking to the United States as kind of a leader in what a developed world means, or how to develop. And if you think about a dream multiplied by 1,000,000, it becomes a nightmare. That's kind of the situation in China and in Asia currently. You can see by these graphs that car sales in Asia are following the same trends that the United States has done previously. I specifically like this graph on the top right here. It shows different nations and their car purchasing over the years, and China is just at the peak, just starting to do what the rest of the nations already have done. And if you think about the issues that come with automobiles and with transportation on a singular scale, where one person gets in one vehicle and travels a distance, and then multiply that times China's population, you start to have a whole lot of big problems. Well, let's look at how transportation has informed civilization in the past, before the automobile, and I guess now with the automobile as well. But let's look at some different examples. First example I'm going to turn to is termite mounds. You know, a termite mound has termites have the opportunity to grow under the ground, or to grow kind of in a sprawled out way, similar to our cities. But many termite mounds grow vertically. They densify. They're not so interested in a sprawling organizational system, nor are they interested in growing down. I think a lot of this deals with well, just different situations. Some termite mounds do grow underground, but the next example is kind of similar to routes on the Arabian Peninsula. And this is a highly dense, these buildings is 11 stories, and it originates in the early 600 BC time frame. So this has been around for a long time. The density serves these people in many, many ways, and this is the reason why they have densified in this manner. Another interesting thing about this community is that these skyscrapers are systems-based skyscrapers. They're continually decomposing and being rebuilt using waste products from the community to rebuild the civilization of the city throughout time. And it's been maintained now for hundreds and hundreds of years. I believe that there's something to this, and there's some strengths that are here that we can learn from in a lot of ways. Next, I'm going to talk about maybe Zionism, or the idea of creating a community that's kind of self-supporting and self-sufficient. I think that a lot of the European communities are built on this model. Mont Saint-Michel there is a great example. Most European cities are built centrally located with the church in the center. The idea being that there is a hierarchy with the church at the center of the community, and that the community kind of surrounds the church, and that becomes kind of the fixture upon which the society is most interested. And on the right, you see Joseph Smith's plan for the New Jerusalem. And I think that there's a commonality between both of these organizations of cities. About, say, Mont Saint-Michel, where there's a density there, which comes from the need to stay away from the tide that comes in. This is a tidal plain, and so they've kind of built this civilization on the rock. But it provides protection, but it also provides efficiency in low levels of transportation necessity between point A and point B within the community. Next, I'm going to talk about Broadacre City, Frank Lloyd Wright. This is, I think, I attribute Broadacre City with the mass of why America looks the way it does today. Maybe not him specifically, but this and other city plans similar to it. Broadacre City is the idea that you have a transnational highway, and then along that transnational highway, with a swath of land of about 2 miles, you have civilization or communities kind of surrounding this transportation core. The problem with this is that it's very low density. It's only about 1,000 people per square mile, and the United States would fill up rather quickly, and it has filled up quite extensively based on this model, where you then start to have, instead of just transnational highways, you start to have these city grids that kind of sprawl out forever. One great example is Phoenix, Arizona. I did a study for the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art, where we looked at the ideas of urban sprawl and also new urbanism. And I think that Scottsdale has some elements of new urbanism that express how it lacks or falls short of opportunities for truly walkable cities, or truly. See here at the micro scale with the shop engagement facility, where you only can engage on the storefront from one direction. And the same thing is true with the neighborhoods. The neighborhoods are blocked with a block wall, and in order to get to this point here, if you live here, the most efficient way to do it is to get in your car and to drive around there. But if you're going to just do that, you might as well go to Costco instead of this place right here down the street. And so even though there may be a walkability in the neighborhood and a walkability on the strip or in the commercial locales, you have this disconnection between the places where people live and the places where people purchase and work and those types of things. So there are some things we can learn from favelas, or from these organically growing urban centers where there are these squatter communities that densify because they have to. But the thing is that there's an awful lot that we can learn from these situations. And I think that Habitat 67 was an attempt to do that. This is an apartment complex built for the World's Fair in Montreal, and it starts to identify with these opportunities to be dense in a way that allows for a lot of opportunities, such as rooftops becoming the backyard of your neighbor, and other opportunities that are built in there. I think one of the ways that the Habitat 67 lacks is that it doesn't incorporate the mixed use, the commercial, the business centers, etc. I do think that European cities have learned a lot over time. This is La Défense in Paris. It's the business district on the outskirts. Frankfurt is one of the highest density cities in the world, and La Défense is right up there with them. And the interesting thing is, if you go to these cities, they aren't dirty, dangerous, urban density that kind of comes to mind in the modern way of thinking, or in a lot of minds. They're clean, they're well maintained, they're beautiful, they have a lot of intricacy that allows for human movement on many levels within the community, not just on the ground, but throughout the cityscape. I think there's a lot that can be learned there, and there's a lot of things that have been done right in these urban densities. Next up, I'll touch on a community called Masdar, designed by Norman Foster in one of the highest petroleum-consuming countries in the world per capita. And Masdar is touted to be an energy zero city, where everything that is consumed here turns into a raw material for another system. The problem I feel with this is that he didn't go dense enough, and so there's only about 20,000 people per square mile here, and it's a two mile settlement, so two by 2 mile settlement. So the population density doesn't really displace or create a sink to decrease sprawl, and I think that's key because even though you have Masdar here, next to it in Abu Dhabi you have this sprawling cityscape that kind of negates the possibility, the opportunities that Masdar creates. I will say though that one of the innovations that they've implemented in Masdar, which I find to be key, is that they have implemented personal rapid transit vehicles, which allow for an individual to get into a rail car and then travel on this public transportation system from point A to point B without having to stop at other stops. It may be an innovation that's worth considering. It's too early to tell, but it is definitely an innovation. So I think that we have the necessity to retool existing context, and then look for new development to encourage transportation independency. And what I mean by that is minimize our need for transportation to expend energy and resources. So here I've created a futuristic transportation map expressing distance traveled in 1 hour by different modes of transportation to try and figure out the optimal transportation method for the distance you want to travel. The automobile, 50 miles an hour, maybe in city driving, that's probably high actually, but that doesn't, many people don't necessarily need to go 50 miles, many people need to go a matter of 5 or maybe 10 miles. So I would argue that the automobile is not the optimal method of transportation for many of our needs currently. But I'm going to say, let's even focus smaller than that. Let's focus on the 5 to 10 mile radius, and let's try and focus our city growth and our cities on that radius so that we can minimize our necessity to rely on external methods of transportation. I failed to mention when I started that I wanted to rethink transportation methods, and then I wanted to show you two of my own projects that kind of deal with this in a realistic way. So, let's see here. So urban spaces have an opportunity to embrace the information age in a lot of different ways. Buildings must become, or can become, collaborative in the same way that information is. This is an example of a common berthing mechanism, this piece here, which connects the different units in the International Space Station. Japan can build one unit, Canada can build another, the European Space Agency can build another, and these international international cooperation can happen because of the common berthing mechanism. Why not take that and apply it to the city scale? So here we have one of my projects dealing with connectivity of diverse units. These are kind of a plug-in unit where you could have anything plugged in here, whatever programmatic need you have. And then there's a common berthing mechanism that holds these things together and allows for them to operate together, which I feel like is a wonderful solution to urban sprawl. Instead of having urban sprawl horizontally, we can have, instead of having suburban sprawl horizontally, we can have urban sprawl vertically. Hence the cranes on top, lift units in and out of this system for growth, continual growth in a vertical way. So here's an example of a unit about 1,000 meters square, so 3,000 square feet. So for a house, this would be kind of a mid-size or even a good-sized house. And then you have infinite configurability. Anything that can fit within this envelope would be what you could build out. So there's an infinite array of what you could build. So then over time you end up with the growth of a city that happens organically as the need arises, not based on projections from one financial institution or another group. So this would be kind of the skeleton of the city, with only the infrastructure, the vertical cores with elevators, and then the horizontal green space and hallways, walking spaces. And then you have different programmatic considerations, commercial, residential, all of the things that are necessary to make a community function. And this can be expanded infinitely as a growing system that requires little to no transportation needs from the outside sources. And then my last project is a project in the Netherlands, and we were interested in an infinitely growing city that stayed within one envelope. It's a little bit more of a conceptual project where it's a Mobius strip that continues to get infinitely more dense as the population grows. Based on an idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you have the residential on the outside with the most necessity of sunlight, and then the more municipal and cultural needs in the center, requiring you to go into the center for exchange as well as for transportation. And then here's some ideas of what it might look like.